Hello, my name is Crystal Arnold, and chances are that we have already talked, and I probably told you that I've had some allergies and reactions over the last several years, probably my whole life looking back. I spent about 10 years trying to figure this out and find out what was wrong with me. And I finally figured it out. It wasn't obvious. So I thought I'd share my journey with you, and it may or may not pertain to you. But knowledge is power. And if, it's certainly worth your time. And if it's helpful for you, great. If not, well, you just got a little education about my history. But maybe you know someone who could benefit from this information. So I'll just quickly share, go through a few slides and see what you think. So my journey. I basically began this journey because I was feeling crummy. I didn't feel good. I was having kind of weird reactions or whatever. So I was going to a birthday party, and it was February 21st, 2015 at a bowling alley. And I had my aha moment. I ordered some nacho chips, ate a few. They were dyed like bright blue and bright red. I probably had just 5 or 6 of them, and they were gross. So I fed them to my husband. But by the time I got home, my face started swelling, which was in the next hour. And I developed a really nasty migraine really fast. And I knew then that it had to have been something I ate. So I called the restaurant to, get the ingredient list. And I had been seeing an allergist for like the last year. So I took this list to the allergist and said, hey, there's a lot of ingredients on here. It looks like I might have an allergy to possibly to the dyes. That was kind of, where my mind went. The allergist says, oh yeah, that's a common allergy. And my first thought was, I just spent $1,000 out of pocket for the whole year. And this is the first time it's come up. It was not even considered. It was always looking at just food and environmental, but not the ingredients that were in the food, like the actual added chemicals and things, the things that are not real food. So anyhow, that's where everything kind of began. And I started researching what was going on. But some of the things that I experienced over the years, primarily my migraine started about age 35. But I was having a lot of these other issues my whole life. And one of the things I didn't put on here, I don't think, was that I also would get bumps on my arm, on the backs of my arms. And I know there's a name for it, and doctors prescribe creams, whatnot. None of that worked. So one of the things I had going on from the time I was young was itchy scalp, getting reoccurrent infections. I kept thinking it was, if I switched shampoos, and I couldn't figure it out, I'd go buy the expensive shampoo, the higher quality, and I was still having the problems. And interesting enough, there was some other generic brands I didn't have any issues with. I had tummy troubles, anywhere from, I wouldn't say nausea, but frequent trips to the bathroom, pain, you name it. Sometimes, like I do have an allergy to shellfish. So that is another whole story. This is kind of separate from that. But if you are allergic to foods, one of the things that happened to me is I would get sharp stomach pains. So it was just like, I couldn't even explain it. It felt like a knife in the gut. I started developing, like I said, the headaches, the migraines, mid-30s. I have felt lightheaded and faint. I've even had it where my hearing was like almost diminishing in my vision because I was passing, getting ready to pass out. I've had hives that wouldn't go away. And no matter what I tried, I couldn't figure out what the heck they were. I'd get them all around my neck. I kept thinking, oh, maybe it's the peanut butter I ate, or, maybe I have a peanut allergy. Maybe it's the oil in the food. I could never figure it out because every time I thought I had it figured out, I was wrong. My face would get puffy. And for me, and maybe it's different for everyone, but every time I have an allergic reaction, I get really puffy around the face. I got a runny nose, which I did not affiliate that with something I was ingesting. I really didn't. I didn't have a clue. I thought it was just allergies to like dust. I would get itchy eyes, again, bloating, pain, eczema, flaking skin. I got that all around the nose a lot. And of course the scalp. and sometimes other areas that just didn't make sense. But one thing that developed towards later in life was stiff and swollen joints. So I felt like I couldn't walk. I felt like I was much older than my age, but it was, I mean, heck, there are people much older in much better shape and they don't have that problem. So I'm like, something's going on here. It's like my body was just like attacking itself. I kept thinking maybe I had some kind of disorder or disease. I get achy legs and feet. These are just like the main ones. So you get the idea. And if you have any of these things, they could be related to a billion different things out there. But I want to share with you what it ended up being with me, because it's not something I would have ever thought of. I think it's becoming more common now, though. So the next steps, here's what I did. I took my findings to the allergist, got little help. In fact, I pretty much quit going to the allergist. I started researching on my own. I'm not a doctor, not an expert, but I know my body. And then I came across an opportunity to take a home test kit, which I thought perfect, because now I'm not going to give this allergist any more money or my time. Now, I'm not telling you not to go to the allergist or the doctor. You might have a great one, but my point is my experience was not that great. So I ordered this test, and I was able to have it sent to my home, and it tested over 1,100 things, not just food, but chemicals and environmental and hormones and gut microbiome, and you name it. It just did the whole shebang. So I got the results back, and it was kind of like, wow, there were things on there that kind of surprised me. And some things didn't. Shellfish, of course, came up. My whole life, and you guys can call me weird, I've never liked cucumbers or watermelon. I've had an aversion to it. And so I just would avoid it. And turns out I'm sensitive to those things. I wouldn't call it a food allergy, but a sensitivity. And so it came up on this test, and it was like, wow, that's amazing to find out that I'm not crazy, that there's a reason why I don't like it. My body was trying to tell me something. So got the results. I probably spent hours just looking over this test result, because I think it's like 65 pages of information. So I was just really picking through it and found out that I'm allergic to artificial ingredients. So I wish I had an example here, but I didn't bring anything with me. But if you look at canned foods, box foods, any of that, you're going to find chemicals in it. But even just store-bought bread has chemicals in it. Everything has preservatives. So I was finding a whole bunch of these things. So I started really going down that path of looking at those things. Let me back up a little bit. I have gone through full elimination diets. The allergist believed I had gluten allergy or I had a dairy allergy. And though I felt better eliminating some of those things or cutting back, I didn't have a problem with those things. So the allergist was kind of baffled. What they weren't looking at was the additives. So technically, the only food I'm really, really allergic to is shellfish, with some other food sensitivities, like I mentioned. But I had a physical coming up with my regular primary doctor. And so I brought the results into the doctor and said, look what I found. I've been working with the allergist, but they didn't discover this. I'm allergic to this, this, and this. Well, my doctor, no joke, I saw her face turn red and she was pissed. And I'm like, she didn't exactly tell me she was pissed, but her attitude showed me she was pissed. She snapped that she hated these reports, and she wanted to know who diagnosed me. And I said, I diagnosed me, and that pissed her off more. And I said, no, really, I took these results to an allergist, and they agreed with me after seeing me for a year, but they never officially were the ones who diagnosed it. And she's like, well, we don't know for sure, because those companies could be, I don't know anything about that company. She just got all like upset and didn't want to help me, didn't want to consider anything. I was trying to say, hey, now if you prescribe me something, I need to see the ingredients, because I'm having reactions to these hormone pills that I had to take. So I started looking at all that too. Bottom line, that visit didn't go well, and I quit going to see her because she wasn't willing to have an adult conversation with me about what my body was feeling and experiencing. I studied the results on my own, did a lot of research, a lot of trial and error. So I started, not only did I do the elimination diet the first time, but this time I started doing one where I was looking at every single ingredient. I'll mind you, this took me about 4 months to get through. So every time I had a reaction, I would actually repeat the painful process down the road. I'd give it a week, clear it out of my body, and reintroduce that item again and watch for the reaction. And after confirming and matching it up to this test that I took at home, I was able to figure out all these different triggers. It wasn't easy, but it was worth taking the time to figure it out, because once I started eliminating these things, I stopped having the scalp infections. I stopped having the flaky skin. I didn't have eczema anymore. My joints stopped hurting. If I go back over, to that other list, pretty much the only thing that happens to me now once in a while is I get a migraine or my face swells because I either gave in or accidentally ingested something I shouldn't have. Basically, I ended up, I found all these different triggers. Like I said, I researched the ingredients. I even bought a book on what the ingredients are, which is, I could do another whole hour on that alone. I find it to be almost criminal what they put in our food. I learned all these different harmful effects, and what they say in small quantities, it's fine, but in large quantity, it's harmful. Well, doesn't it kind of add up over time? I don't agree with that statement. So anyways, I gave up a lot of things. And that was the hardest part of this. I had to give up soda, all the chemicals. At first I thought, maybe I can handle drinking clear soda, because I thought it was just dyes. No, I ended up having to give up everything. So the only things I drink now is coffee, tea, water, milk. Those are the only things I drink now. And I had to learn to live with it, and I'm okay with it now. Just can't give up that coffee though. If I do creamer, I have to either make my own or make sure it's all natural. I made so many mistakes. I don't know how many times. I still do. It's very hard to adjust what I'm eating. At home, I'm pretty controlled, but if you're on the go traveling, eating at someone else's house, there's a lot of things you have to do to work around. And sometimes you just have to be honest with the person who invited you and say, hey, I've got these really bad allergies or sensitivities. Would it be okay if I bring my own food? And if they're not comfortable with that, well, first of all, I'd probably be questioning why I'm even going over there. But sometimes I've eaten before I've left, or I might find safe food there and kind of pick at it. Or if it's like a buffet or a family thing, I bring my own dishes to contribute to the get together. And that eliminates those issues. I started feeling better. Like I said, I still make mistakes today, but I'm feeling so much better. One thing I'd like to note is that these reactions are often delayed. Sometimes they can be within the next 15 minutes, but most of them take 24 to 48 hours for me to feel it. And that makes it complicated because you don't always know what you ate. So I used to keep a log. I started looking at my environmental too, look at topical. So if you're putting lotions on your skin, you want to look at the ingredients because your body is absorbing that, and it might be a smaller reaction, but it's in everything, even in the air. The best thing you want to do is listen to your body. You might find that you have other triggers that cause similar symptoms that makes it complicated. Like my migraines, I get triggered by neck pain from a neck injury, tension, stress, dehydration, those kinds of things. So I call it the perfect storm sometimes, because if I have more than one trigger at one time, I'm just doomed. Now I'm going to feel miserable for several days. If I have a full allergic reaction, I should say sensitive reaction, because it doesn't put me in the hospital. I could have hives and stuff for a week, and I'm just like itching internally too. It's just horrible. You can't get rid of it. You definitely want to make sure you rule out other medical conditions and issues. This is just information to share with you what I went through. So, maybe it will get you thinking, maybe you have something you relate to, or maybe you know someone. So that is the reason I'm sharing with you today. I get asked this a lot. Where'd you get your kit? Where'd you get that testing kit? I want to know more information. Here's some questions you're going to want to ask yourself. Is finding the answers worth it to you? If you don't take this test, there's a bunch of information you'll never have. Is it even allergies or sensitivities? I guarantee that everybody will show something on this test. You have sensitivities, and it will show sensitivities and reactions to things you did not even ever come in contact with or ingest in your life. It's based on your DNA and your hair and saliva, that kind of thing. So they did kind of double test to make sure that those two match up as well. But I guarantee there's going to be something that you didn't know. I found that I was allergic to a monkey tree or something that I'm like, I don't even know. I've never been around one. I don't think I have. But fascinating information. This information, how will you use it? You know, if you're going to get this information, are you going to read the report? Are you going to test out things that you might be sensitive to, or just avoid them in general? Really think about the things that it comes across, you know, that it lists. I've had things listed on there that I'm like, okay, I've eaten that and not really had a reaction. But like I said, sometimes the reactions are 48 hours later, and maybe it's a mild reaction. Sometimes it's just your body's a little sensitive to it. So it might not be the most obvious, but I guarantee something's going to connect with you, and you're going to be like, oh, that totally makes sense now. You might want to know what options there are. I know when I did the kit, there was several different levels, and I think they have a family package. I'm trying to think. They have an add-on, so if you wanted to do the gut piece of it, and they might have added additional things now, I'm not sure. But the basic kit will give you like around 1,100 things to test for. So definitely good information, and it's totally worth it. I think, and I'm just, because it's been a while, I believe I paid about $169 to $200. I think I did a thing for my daughter and I, and we paid about $200. And at first I was kind of like, ugh, $200. But you know what? I spent $1,000 at the allergist and never got that. They only test like the top 10, 25 things, even when they're like going through a lot of things and they add additional. They're doing a lot of topical. And a lot of times I don't have topical reactions. I have internal reactions. So the skin test wasn't really doing me any good anyway. The shellfish didn't even come up on my skin, and they thought I was crazy. But I know how violently sick I get when I eat shellfish. And that is the one thing that will put me in the hospital, and it will happen fast. I usually get sick within 20 minutes or less when I have that. So I just wanted to thank you for sticking around to the end of this video and listening to my journey. I just hope this helps you with your journey too. And if it's not useful information, well, I thank you for your time anyhow. And I appreciate that you took the time. So take care, and I will talk to you soon.